Welcome back to our channel for another deep dive into the relentless, pulse-pounding drama of your favorite daytime television series. Today is a beautiful day to unravel the tangled webs of deception, betrayal, and dark secrets. So let us jump straight into the explosive events awaiting us. The upcoming week of July 13th through the 17th promises to be a masterclass in psychological warfare and emotional devastation. With every hidden agenda and buried truth threatening to detonate, the stifling summer heat seems to perfectly mirror the boiling tensions among the residents. As long-standing rivalries reach a fever pitch and fragile alliances begin to shatter under the immense weight of paranoia. As an added layer of real-world excitement, the daytime television landscape will be holding its collective breath on Tuesday, July 14th. When the highly anticipated Emmy nominations are officially announced, leaving fans to wonder if this incredible season of storytelling will receive the critical recognition it so richly deserves. But within the fictional universe, there is no time for celebration, only a suffocating atmosphere of dread as multiple characters find themselves pushed into impossible, agonizing corners. At the very center of this impending storm is the vicious, escalating feud between Donnie and Haley, a bitter rivalry that is about to reach an unprecedented level of hostility. Donnie currently operates under the dangerous illusion that she holds the ultimate trump card, a false sense of superiority born from a devastating secret she has harbored for months. She knows exactly what transpired in that claustrophobic elevator during the terrifying night of the tornado, and she views this knowledge as a loaded weapon aimed directly at Haley's carefully constructed life. Donnie is consumed by an insatiable, burning desire to completely dismantle her rival, meticulously analyzing every past slight and preparing to unleash a revelation that she believes will leave Haley broken and humiliated. However, Donnie's arrogance blinds her to the terrifying reality of her situation, as she is entirely oblivious to the lethal lengths her adversary is willing to go to protect her interests. Donnie approaches this conflict as if it were a standard game of social sabotage, completely unaware that she is essentially poking a cornered, venomous predator. Her relentless provocation is a dangerous dance on the edge of a precipice, and her reckless determination to inflict emotional pain could easily backfire in catastrophic ways. The sheer intensity of their impending confrontation threatens to spill over into the public domain, raising the terrifying possibility that collateral damage is unavoidable. If Donnie pushes too hard, her weaponized secret might not just destroy Haley, but it could inadvertently expose her own vulnerabilities. Furthermore, the sheer volume of their animosity creates a massive risk of exposure, with the lingering threat that someone else, perhaps the ever-observant Andre, might be lurking in the shadows, silently absorbing every toxic word and preparing to use this newfound leverage for his own sinister purposes. While Donnie plays a petty game of vengeance, Haley's internal landscape is a chilling wasteland of cold, calculated malice and absolute ruthlessness. She has fully embraced the role of the Black Widow, her mind entirely consumed by the intoxicating promise of a $10 million life insurance payout. For Haley, human life has lost all intrinsic value, replaced entirely by a morbid, accelerating countdown to absolute financial freedom. The suffocating presence of Donnie is merely an irritating distraction from her true, lethal objective, but it is a distraction that threatens to unravel her meticulously planned murder. Haley feels the intense, crushing pressure of time slipping away, forcing her to constantly evaluate the risks of her slow-acting poison against the mounting suspicions of those around her. Every forced smile she offers, every feigned moment of marital concern is a heavy, exhausting performance masking a soul devoid of empathy. The horrifying reality of Haley's plot becomes impossible to ignore as Bill's physical condition rapidly deteriorates, transitioning from a series of easily dismissed hand tremors into a full-blown, terrifying medical emergency. The insidious toxin that has been quietly ravaging his nervous system finally pushes his body to the absolute brink of collapse, resulting in a frantic, chaotic rush to the hospital. Bill is trapped in a nightmarish fog of physical agony and profound confusion, his mind struggling to comprehend the sudden, catastrophic failure of his own body. The sterile, blinding lights of the emergency room offer no comfort, only the terrifying realization that his life is slipping through his fingers. Deep within the haze of his suffering, a primal instinct begins to stir. A faint but growing suspicion regarding the sudden onset of his illness and the unnervingly calm demeanor of the woman standing by his bedside. Within the suffocating confines of the hospital room, Hallie delivers the performance of a lifetime, flawlessly executing the role of the terrified, devoted wife while her internal monologue races with cold, calculating panic. She watches the medical staff with hawkish intensity, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she calculates the terrifying probability of a toxicology screen exposing her lethal handiwork. Every beep of the heart monitor, every hushed conversation between the doctors, sends a jolt of sheer terror through her veins. She is trapped in a high-stakes gamble, desperately hoping the poison remains undetectable just long enough for the inevitable conclusion, while simultaneously terrified that Bill might experience a moment of absolute clarity and point a trembling, accusatory finger directly at her. This unbearable, suffocating tension begins to severely fracture the loyalty of her accomplice, Randy, who watches the situation spiral violently out of control from the periphery. Randy's initial commitment to a lucrative insurance fraud scheme is rapidly dissolving into sheer, unadulterated panic as he realizes he is now an accessory to a messy, highly suspicious attempted murder. The accelerated timeline forced upon them by Bill's hospitalization leaves no room for error, and Randy is consumed by the terrifying vision of spending the rest of his life behind bars. His internal conflict is a violent clash between his lingering greed and his desperate need for self-preservation, leading to reckless decisions and a growing, dangerous resentment toward Haley's absolute lack of caution. Meanwhile, a completely different brand of emotional devastation is unfolding within the sterile corridors of the hospital, as the simmering, unspoken tension between Leslie and Ted finally explodes into a bitter, resentful confrontation. The atmosphere between the plastic surgeon and his adversary is thick with the heavy, suffocating weight of past grievances and buried mistakes. Leslie wields a deeply guarded secret like a surgical scalpel, meticulously and mercilessly carving away at the secure, comfortable life Ted has built for himself. The sheer venom in their exchange suggests a history fraught with profound betrayal, leaving Ted completely cornered, his professional arrogance crumbling into a desperate, frantic need to protect his meticulously crafted reputation from absolute ruin. The psychological toll of this confrontation shatters Ted's resolve, forcing him into a corner where the agonizing guilt becomes too heavy to carry in silence. In a moment of profound, desperate vulnerability, he delivers a shocking, world-altering confession to Shanice, a revelation that instantly demolishes the very foundation of their relationship. The words hang in the air like a physical blow, leaving Shanice entirely paralyzed by a suffocating wave of heartbreak and absolute disbelief. Her internal world collapses in an instant, her mind frantically racing backwards, reevaluating every memory, every whispered promise, and every moment of intimacy through the devastating lens of this newly uncovered lie. She is faced with an agonizing, impossible choice: to attempt the monumental task of forgiving a profound betrayal, or to walk away from a life she now realizes was built on a fragile, hollow illusion. Far away from the sterile environment of the hospital, the local DMV becomes the unlikely staging ground for a dark, obsessive vendetta as Deanna's simmering hatred for Joey begins to curdle into something truly dangerous. Deanna has completely shed her identity as a concerned college student, transforming into a relentless, hyper-vigilant hunter utterly consumed by the need to expose Joey's manipulative nature. Her protective instincts toward Vanessa have warped into a dark, suffocating obsession, driving her to cross ethical boundaries and utilize incredibly shady, underhanded tactics to gather incriminating evidence. Deanna operates in a state of constant, adrenaline-fueled paranoia, utterly convinced that she is the only person capable of seeing the monster hiding behind Joey's charming facade. This psychological warfare reaches a suffocating climax during a profoundly tense, excruciatingly awkward dinner shared by Deanna, Joey, and a blissfully ignorant Vanessa. The clinking of silverware against porcelain serves as the only soundtrack to a silent, vicious battle of wills. Joey sits in a state of agonizing hyper-awareness, his muscles coiled with tension as he senses the invisible traps Deanna is meticulously laying out before him. He forces rigid, unconvincing smiles, his eyes constantly darting toward Deanna, searching for the slightest indication that she has uncovered his dark secrets. Vanessa, caught squarely in the crossfire, desperately clings to a fragile, crumbling facade of domestic harmony, her maternal instincts warring with an undeniable, creeping dread that her daughter is violently pulling apart the seams of her newfound happiness. Amidst these swirling vortexes of malice and deception, a deeply personal, profoundly tragic storyline emerges as Naomi finally collapses under the crushing, suffocating weight of her BRCA genetic diagnosis. For months, she has carried this terrifying, life-altering medical reality in absolute, agonizing isolation, her mind constantly plagued by dark, terrifying visions of her own mortality. The sheer emotional exhaustion of maintaining a facade of perfect health has hollowed her out, leaving her desperate for the comforting embrace of her loved ones. In a moment of sheer, terrifying vulnerability, she finally shatters her silence, delivering the devastating truth to Donnie and Jacob, fundamentally altering the trajectory of their lives forever. For Jacob, this devastating revelation acts as the final, catastrophic blow to an already completely shattered psyche. He is currently trapped in a living nightmare, his body still radiating with the deep, agonizing physical pain from the brutal, merciless beating he endured at the hands of his treacherous contact. Ren, in that abandoned, shadowy warehouse. Jacob has been operating in a state of sheer, unadulterated paranoia, his investigation into the plasma ring conspiracy forcing him into a corner where every shadow holds a lethal threat. He has been reduced to cornering a terrified, evasive Grayson in claustrophobic elevators, desperately demanding answers while constantly looking over his bruised shoulder. When Naomi delivers her heartbreaking news, Jacob's internal world simply caves in. He is torn violently between the profound, overwhelming love he holds for his sister and a dark, bitter resentment over the fact that she lied to him while he was out risking his life, pushing his emotional endurance far beyond its absolute breaking point. The impending fallout from Naomi's confession threatens to send massive, destructive shockwaves through the entire Dupree family structure. The revelation of her months-long deception creates a deeply complex, incredibly volatile emotional landscape where profound, tearful sympathy for her terrifying health crisis collides violently with a sharp, stinging sense of absolute betrayal. The family members are forced to grapple with the agonizing reality that Naomi did not trust them enough to share her darkest fears, leaving the once unbreakable bonds of their family dangerously frayed and hanging by a thread. As Donnie fiercely attempts to shield Naomi from the inevitable barrage of painful, intrusive questions, the entire family stands on the precipice of a massive emotional reckoning. One that will determine if their love is strong enough to survive the suffocating weight of such a monumental, heartbreaking secret.